People came emotional. They were crying. They walked up to the scene. Some people actually went under the crime scene tape here and went in. Deputies with their long rifles had to chase after them to stop them from going into that scene.
Actually bought a ticket, just $15, probably the highest seat you can find. I went inside, I talked to people. They said no matter the weather or no matter who shows up, they're ready for anything to happen this weekend.
Their concern is that with all of this lying around, obviously they want to help neighbors, but also they got to look out for themselves, because the last thing anybody wants is any of all of this to kick up and blow around. In this 173-page report, investigators say they have witnesses, victims, and they have photos. And ironically, this bail bondsman is being held here without one.
When I spoke to him, it was a little after 5:30. He said at that point, it was at 80% turnout here in Brevard County. So the number is expected to be even higher than that.
A UCF football player is one of 2 people in Orange County accused of breaking into a home. UCF Athletics confirmed Justin Hodges is now off the team. And you can see right behind me here that you got the wood that is out ready to board up this garage. Folks really taking advantage of these final moments ahead of the storm. Alice says she was downstairs when the elevator lost power, so to get back upstairs, she had to scoot all the way up to the 3rd floor. Right now, things, Eric, feel amazing, but we should be on track for another good day with a little rain.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to deal with that.
Right now, it is 9:10. Let's get things over to Cam. Cam, I keep peeking over at the weather center there. It looks like it's gonna be a beautiful day from what I can tell.
Yeah, it is.
Tony Atkins has worked for weeks to get this video for us. He joins us in studio tonight. And Tony, the officers say they were waiting basically on responding here.
Yeah, Summer, Jesse, this video is extremely disturbing. You could hear this woman crying for help from the restroom as officers pondered what to do from the other side of an unlocked door.
He ripped my teeth out. He stuck his hand in my mouth.
This is body camera footage from a Sanford police call on June 1st of last year. A gas station clerk attacked unprovoked at this racetrack on US 1792 in Sanford. The response under investigation.
And I said, sir, please step out, let me check. But when I checked it, I said, it's got toilet paper, and he got in front of the door and closed it behind me, and I said, please let me out.
Randall Lawson was arrested.
Get in there quick, man. He done spit up there, Nick.
Now here's where it all started. A bystander immediately warned the cop of the situation.
Get your taser out and all that. For real, sir. In the last bathroom to the left.
The officer runs inside. A clerk there tells him 5 more times. They're in the men's room on the left.
Phil, wait. Who else is inside?
It's just me and my assistant manager and the guy in the men's bathroom.
Where's your assistant manager?
She's in the bathroom.
You could hear the woman screaming inside. 45 seconds later, he waits before talking to a second officer.
But it's in that door on the left. But hallway's narrow, bro. It's a setup. Feel me? What you want to do? You want to wait? I mean, I say we wait for more units.
The woman immediately after is heard crying again for help.
There's another way to get through that door.
The 2 officers make their first ask, hoping the attack stops.
Sir, can you come out with your hands up?
Sanford Police.
Another minute passes. Another cry for help from the victim, who's aware someone is outside the room. And finally, 3 minutes and 29 seconds after the first officer walked inside the convenience store, another officer makes a move.
All right, she's screaming. Go in.
I know.
Go in. What are we waiting for? Drop the knife!
Lawson was arrested. The woman was taken to a hospital. After the arrest, the officer who waited spoke with the cop, who finally opened the door.
Okay, what you did was fine, but you don't rush. Okay, take it slow, bro. Because you could have been waiting. You didn't even know what kind of life you had.
Another officer confronted the 2 about waiting as the woman pleaded for her life.
Because you guys were standing outside, I thought everybody was out.
No, we just wanted one more person.
Like when that you go in, like you don't have to wait for a third person.
Now, Sanford police, they say they're still investigating this, and Chief Cecil Smith says he wasn't made aware of how this was handled until earlier this month, 9 months after this happened last June. The officers involved are now off patrol pending the outcome of an investigation. Summer.
It's very hard to gauge, like, time-wise. Like, it's so fresh. It, like, still feels fresh in my memory, but at the same time, I feel like I haven't seen them in forever.
Sabrina and Mickey Hernandez says there isn't a day that goes by where they don't think of their 3 kids, 11-year-old Miley, 9-year-old Mac, and 1-year-old Anayari, as well as Sabrina's mother, Trinidad Hernandez.
You make space in your life for, like, the pain and the heartache, and you just learn how to live with it there.
They were all killed in a crash here at the intersection of San Miguel Road and Laurel Avenue on September 3rd, 2023. The Florida Highway Patrol says a 15-year-old driver blew through a stop sign, slamming their car into the family's car. Troopers say the teen did not have a permit, and more than 17 months after the crash, any decision to charge remains in the hands of the state attorney's office.
When you make mistakes, especially ones this big that are at other people's expense, you have to pay the consequences.
According to FHP, there were more than 19,000 crashes in Florida caused by people running stop signs in 2023. 422 people were seriously injured and 57 people died in those types of crashes.
What was this house like with all the kids?
Loud, chaotic, full of happiness, though. I miss it. The silence is a reminder of them not being here.
Since then, their once bustling house of love and laughter is now a museum of memories. Urns with ashes and photos serve as a constant reminder of the few years they had together.
Reminds us that we did have a beautiful family.
This couple leans into their faith as they navigate the gaping heartbreak.
I realized I serve a good God when I still had love in my heart after all of this.
That faith accompanied by an unexpected blessing.
It doesn't replace my beautiful 3 children, but it was a way for God to give me back something that I enjoyed so much in my life, was being a mom.
Something to smile about following this family's greatest tragedy.
It's a boy. Yes.
And we have a name.
Yes.
Israel. Just painted it this week.
The family showed me their new nursery, explaining how clearing space to make room was particularly tough.
Our kids' room stood as is until last week from the accident. Like, even like my daughter's room, the garbage can still had garbage that she threw in it. Like, just paper she was drawing on. Like, it was just too hard for me to even think about, like, them not having a room.
These days, joy and pain, it all swirls together at times, but through it all, hope remains.
It's exhausting, and I try not to get hopeless, because it can feel hopeless. Like, is anything ever gonna happen? Are we gonna ever see this person pay for what they did? And, you know, that's where my faith comes in God, to know that, like, the battle's in His hands, and I just have to, you know, be obedient to His timing.
Covering Osceola County and Poinciana, Tony Atkins, West 2 News.
Watch 2's Tony Atkins is live outside the elections office for us tonight. And Tony, Diamond says he's seeing some red flags.
Well, Summer, he also says just this past weekend, Gilzine cut 224 checks, and he says that amount of spending is unusual. Now, tonight I also had the chance to speak to Gilzine. He says all of that spending comes on the heels of a very expensive election just last month.
A long day of back and forth between election supervisor Glenn Gilzine and comptroller Phil Diamond. An in-person confrontation at the supervisor of elections office on Monday afternoon, and then each office went back and forth sending out dueling press releases.
Well, we went to the supervisor's office to get records.
Last week, county commissioners voted to freeze funding for the election supervisor's office as officials demanded transparency from the election's boss. It comes after Gilzine decided to use more than $2 million in leftover money for things like creating scholarships.
They broke the law by withholding our funds, and they are legally withholding our funds.
Now, with some records in hand, Diamond accuses Gilzine of, quote, draining his office's bank account. This weekend, Diamond says 224 checks went out for nearly $4.3 million in expenses.
It's a lot of money, and it was kind of surprising to see that kind of cash flow out of there.
The new funding freeze leaves payroll for Orange County Supervisors of Elections workers in limbo,
which will put our finances in peril and our employees and vendors at risk of not getting payment at the end of this year.
I asked Gilzine about the money spent over the weekend.
Can you name some of the vendors that you had to pay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the Orange County Sheriff's Office is one. We added security to this election cycle, which we never had before. You also have to remember we had a hurricane that we had to deal with. And then last but not least, because this was an unprecedented election year, we expanded early voting to additional sites. All of that has costs.
And we want to make sure we look at all the records. That's
Now, I also asked Glenn Gilzine about his payroll for the rest of the month. He says the next pay period next week, that one will be fine, but his concern is that following pay period, which falls during the week of Christmas. I'm covering Orange County live in Orlando. Tony Atkins, West 2 News.
Maybe, because we're short.
The sounds of the game, the whistles, the cheers, and of course, the players. At their soccer field in Leesburg, playoffs are underway for these kids, and some of these games are competitive.
Let's go! Let's go!
This is Sakina Gaines, and if you weren't paying attention, you might have thought she was a coach. But her daughter is playing goalkeeper.
Baby girl back there on the backfields and all your games, yep, big chalk.
While many of the parents here are hyped up about the game, the parents we saw here were all having a good time.
It's for them to enjoy themselves, group up with other kids, learn different things. It's not nothing to be, too competitive about. Be competitive, but, positive competitive.
However, that isn't always the case.
We have a bleeding umpire in our boardroom right now.
Time and time again, we've seen the brawls and the punches thrown at youth sporting events. Some facilities even posting signs like this one reminding parents that these are kids and this is just a game. But still, this Apopka dad was arrested in October for allegedly pulling a gun at his son's Pop Warner game after other parents told him their kids were better. And in May, Jorge Aponte Gonzalez was caught on camera sucker punching an umpire at an Osceola County baseball game. The unsportsmanlike offenses warranting more than a yellow card. They warranted criminal charges.
I've gotten mobbed by parents who didn't let a child play for an injury that was sustained. I've seen, parents talk bad about referees' weight, age, disability.
Victor Burgos is a referee for various levels of soccer and Pop Warner football. He says parents' bad behavior has an impact on reffing. In some cases, he's even stopped games entirely.
It's not the coach, it's not the parents, it's the children. Let them play out. Let that excitement flow through, whether it's a win or loss. But when you have to storm the field and make something more than it should be, and then you stop a game and they forfeit, then they said, did we lose? You see them totally not understanding what's happening.
In 2019, the FHSAA published an open letter urging unruly parents to, quote, cool it at games. The league at the time saying the behavior causes massive headaches for officials associations nationwide. They also say it's led to shortages, in the state already experiencing some of the highest official shortages in the nation.
They are officials that are soon to leave the ranks because they came to help athletics and all they're being is berated by parents.
Jay Getty is the athletic director at Haggerty High School in Seminole County. He says the district now goes over behavior in its sports acknowledgement forms.
Your $9 supports our athletic programs and our budgets. Thank you for your contribution, but that was not your ticket to become the official or to become the coach that's on the sideline.
Getty says if the shortages continue, they could have a serious impact on games statewide.
It is not a dire situation today. It is a forecast situation down the road.
Parents like Sakina says she's just happy her daughter is focused and doing something productive. She's hopeful all parents can keep cool while supporting their kids at games.
Let them do their job. Let them do their job. They out here for a reason.
In Lake County, Tony Atkins, WESH 2 News.